My garbage person of the week is this individual. No one watching this knows who this is, but you're about to. This is Alabama State Senator Marsh, who's absolute garbage for reasons that will now become clear. Take a look at what he had to say. But before you watch the video, bear in mind, he is on the Alabama State COVID response team. This is what he had to say recently.
I'm not as concerned as much as the number of cases. In fact, quite honestly, I want to see more people, because we start reaching an immunity if more people have it and get through it. I don't want any deaths, as few as possible to say it, I get it. So those people who are susceptible to the disease, especially more serious, those with pre-existing conditions, elderly population, those folks, we need to do all we can to protect them. But I'm not concerned. I want to make sure that everybody can receive care.
So what you want to hear during a pandemic is that the person who's in charge in your state, on the team that's in charge of dealing with it, isn't concerned, and in fact, kind of wants more people to get the virus that we're all desperately trying to avoid getting. That by itself is bad enough. The reason he is true garbage is really about his position of authority here. We can't afford to have randos who are this wrong. But to have someone in a position of power is worse. There's another reason he's garbage, but Brett, I'll let you interject first.
Like, I get it. You don't, you don't, if you don't ask, you don't get it. If he's saying what he wants, John. He's just saying that I want people to develop a herd immunity, but I don't want old people. I want people to get the virus, but I don't want people to die from it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He wants to get through it, but he doesn't want people to die from it. I want those things too, but that's not how any of this works, man. Mm-hmm. This isn't any and all strategy. You have to get people socially distanced. You have to be wearing masks so that we can prevent the kind of spreading of this virus that happens and has been proven to occur. And he's just putting together this crazy laundry list, which is not scientifically accurate. They've said, I don't know if it's this article that you pulled from, but I read about this exact same guy and that exact same statement that in Spain they did studies and the antibodies don't stick around in your blood for long enough.
Don't you worry.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to give you all those details.
Do it.
Yeah. The thing is, you have a person who should know better, who does know better, because they're surrounded by actual doctors giving them advice and everything like that, who has come up with something that sounds good and would be good if it was true, but it's not. So it's madness to follow that strategy when people will die. It's like if aliens invaded and you decided, we're just going to splash water on them. And then someone would respond, why would you do that? That has nothing to do with it. And you'd be like, I watched Signs, and it worked in Signs, so we're just going to do that. It doesn't have anything to do with these aliens. We're just going to do it, because it sounds good. It's 20 years old. Here's the thing. Herd immunity is not what he thinks it is. It's also not possible. And so state health official in Alabama, Dr. Scott Harris, says there's no data to support this claim, but here are a few other issues with it. So we have this: if the majority of Alabamians got coronavirus, that would mean tens of thousands of deaths, according to a doctor at Johns Hopkins University, with the disease's mortality rate at an estimated 1%. So if we followed his strategy, and if his strategy worked, tens of thousands of people in that state would die, which he didn't focus on, oddly enough, in his comments there. And additionally, it wouldn't be equally distributed. We should bear in mind that, as has been the case with the pandemic so far, that burden of herd immunity will be paid for with the health and lives of least privileged members of society. That's Dr. Stephen Kessler there. The issue is, all of that is a perfectly accurate response if the strategy could work. But as Brett alluded to, there's very good reason to believe that it wouldn't work even if we paid that unthinkable cost. New study shows that just 5% of those tested across Spain maintained antibodies to the virus. The study also found that 14% of people who had tested positive for coronavirus antibodies in the first round of testing no longer tested positive in subsequent tests carried out weeks later. So the idea that we just let everybody get sick and then it's cool, we'll all be immune to it, that is not the case. Just because that's the case with some viruses doesn't mean it will function this way, and the evidence thus far indicates that it will not. That if you are asymptomatic, with COVID-19, it won't affect your immune system to the extent necessary to produce antibodies. And even if it does, those aren't necessarily going to be more than just transient. And this is already out there. He just said this week. He's still following a strategy that the best research indicates wouldn't work. And even if it did work, it would lead to tens of thousands of deaths. When the alternative, taking the virus seriously, wearing masks, socially distancing, and not rushing to reopen things, has the benefit of actually working and would not produce needless tens of thousands of deaths in Alabama alone.
So stupid.
Not to mention the fact that if you overload Alabama's healthcare system, as he seems desperate to do, then people will die who need help for any number of other issues because the hospitals will be filled up. It's a disaster from front to back, from floor to ceiling, and he is in power in Alabama, in a position of power to actually continue this strategy that is flawed in every way a public health strategy could be flawed.
True.
Anyway, so really fast, here is the TDR Community Garbage Person of the Week. Each week we ask you to submit people, and then we choose the top vote getters and have you vote on the community tab on youtube.com/The Damage Report. And this year, Tucker Carlson...
This year?
Sorry, this week. Tucker Carlson for his anti-mask, probably for
John,
this year as well.
can you please identify the camel for me?
Shut up. I know I can orient. Tucker Carlson will also be the Garbage Person of the Year. Don't even worry about that. For his anti-mask propaganda, saying that it's anti-scientific, even though he had previously said that it was, of course, what we should do. And for defaming vet Tammy Duckworth, he is the top vote getter for an individual, with Kanye West at 8%, Ghislaine Maxwell at 5%, and people refusing to abide by pandemic prevention measures at 9%. That was your Garbage Person of the Week. Thank you to the 15,000 of you who voted this week. They're all trash, as they always are.
Church.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.